Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Gaming Lounge Podcast, episode 17. Once again, I'm your host, Sebastian, and I'm joined by Dory. How's everything going, Dory?
Although I'm doing the Batman 1960s dance. I don't know why. Everything's great. What a great week for gaming. 3 new games came out, all of which I was interested in. We will talk about 2 of them, which Seb has also played, I think both of them. And then next week we'll tackle the third one because there was way too much gaming this week.
Yeah, there was actually more than 3 games. There was a lot of games, like 6 or 7 games this week. And they all came out like in the span of 3 days, the same 3 days.
Yes.
But we're not talking about all of them. We're going to save some of them for next week. But we're going to start off with College Football 25, which technically came out yesterday, but it actually came out Monday if you got the deluxe edition, which I did. I spent the money to get the deluxe edition because I wanted to play it early. I've been waiting 11 years to play College Football 25. And I would say it lives up to the hype. It's not perfect by any means. It lacks features. It could be it could be better. It doesn't have as much features as the original game, like when we had NCAA Football 14, which was 11 years ago, like I said. But it is still a quality football game, I think. And I think people that like college football and sports in general are really going to dig this game. It's going to be very popular. I mean, it already is. I see it on Twitter all the time. People are really digging it. I think it has like 88 on Metacritic, so people are really liking it. So it has your pretty standard features that you would expect in a game, in a football game. I mean, EA makes it too, so it's very similar to Madden. I would say the Road to Glory mode could be better. I kind of wish that you could start in high school, like in NCAA 14, where you could like literally make your own high school and use the same, like make your own like stadium and arena and uniforms and things. And it was really cool going from and doing high school games and then getting recruited to college. This one kind of just throws you right into college, and it's just not as cool as when than starting off in high school. And and also it's pretty much impossible if you pick like the lowest path where like you're like a major underdog, like walk-on kid. It's pretty much impossible to get like playing time because you have to work your way up to be a starter to get playing time. And it's just the time you actually start playing, you might just be spending 3 years doing nothing. Just doing training mini games, and the mini games are pretty hard. I feel like they're very unforgiving. I like you can really just simulate it and it doesn't really affect anything. So I don't really care for them that much. Franchise mode. It's really fun. I like picking a college and just recruiting players and then I like picking like a team that's like a 1-star college, like where I went to school, Florida Atlantic University, FAU, and like making them win the national championship against like Georgia and Alabama, which would be insane if that ever happened in real life, because that wouldn't happen in real life. They would get destroyed by 70-0 like they normally do.
Seb is truly living his fantasy football at this point.
Yes. Because those teams get legitimately paid to get blown out on purpose. They get paid. Wow. They get paid to lose. Yeah, because they know that they have no chance. So the college gets a lot of money out of it. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, obviously those colleges like Alabama and Ohio State and recruit 5-star players. So there's no way a college that's like smaller is gonna beat them generally.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Once in a blue moon, you have like an upset, but 99% of the time, it's pretty much a given. So the NCAA hasn't been around. The game hasn't been around in 11 years because the players sued EA and NCAA for their likeness and being used and not getting paid. But nowadays, like I said, college players get paid now. So the players now apparently get $600 to be in this game, and they get a free copy of the game. They get asked permission if they want to be in the game or not, and the players have to say yes or no. If they say no, then they just replace them with an automated player, basically. But I think they said the majority of the players said yes, and so pretty much all the players that you want to play as, the big stars, are in this game. Because you can imagine, $600 doesn't sound like a lot, but most players in college football are not stars. Most of them are not going to be playing in the NFL. So so basically, if any of us got offered $600 to get a free copy,
I would do it.
To be
that's a month of rent for me.
Yeah, to be in a video game and get a free copy, I think any of us would take that. So I don't think anyone's complaining about $600. I think, I mean, Dory doesn't. I don't know if Dory really follows football at all, but so
I did for 1 year.
I won't get too technical with it, but I think that one of the problems I have with it is the offensive line is really bad in this game, and the defensive line gets pressure on the quarterback way too fast. Like, you literally have like 1 second to throw the ball sometimes, and I don't really understand that. I mean, college football, offensive lines are not great as much anymore. The pass rushers are so good, but you really, like, there's no way, like, I'm playing against like an FCS team, and like I can't, and I'm playing as like a high end top 10 team, and I still don't get any time to throw the ball. It's ridiculous. And the AI is like really.
I did understand most of what your complaint there. Yes.
And the AI is like very smart on defense. It's like they just like dive, and I'm throwing like a nice pass, and like somehow the AI just knows where I'm throwing, and they just swarm at the ball, and it makes it really challenging. I mean, I'm still doing a good job and everything, and I understand how to play football and the formations and everything, but it just little things like that I don't really care for. It's like you can't, like, if you're playing as a scrambling quarterback and you try to run out the pocket, the defensive line like automatically knows you're running out of the pocket, and you have like no chance of scrambling. It's like
you can't adjust the AI or difficulty at all either.
No, you can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You can play even on like a lower setting. I'm playing on like, I usually play on like the second hardest difficulty. I never play on the highest, but even I tried on the lowest one just to see how it works, and it was still the same way. It was like,
wow,
the defensive line was just too smart.
What?
Yeah,
that's wild.
But it's not.
What's the point of having difficulty if stuff like that's not going to change?
And if it does change, it's definitely a lot harder when you play on the harder. But it's still like there. Okay. You can't.
Yeah.
I get why, because Madden notoriously like a player like Michael Vick would be like 99 rating, and he would just be so overpowered that he would you can literally outrun the whole defense by himself, and it was like cheating if you played as him. And so a lot of people would just scramble as a quarterback and just break the defense, and because back then in most cases of football games the defense is terrible. And it's so easy to score 75 points a game. And I'm still scoring a lot of points, so don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like the defense is impossible to score on. I'm just saying like they could give you a little more time to throw the ball. It's like,
right.
It's ridiculous. But I would say overall though, the physics are really good. I think it's really fun to play. I think it flows very well. Presentation is pretty good. It's not amazing. The UI is not great, but I think a lot of people are going to be happy with that. I don't think anyone's going to complain too much. What else?
And you said this is the same company that makes Madden, or similar, or is it not competing?
No, it's EA Sports.
Same company.
It's the same. Yeah.
Oh, it's EA Sports. Right. So they're competing with themselves, basically.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So overall, I think it does a good job. It's a good football game. It's a good sports game. I think most people are going to be happy with it. I think it's been very positive for the most part. Right. I've seen some mixed things about the lack of features, and I agree. There's a lack of content that the other game had that was better. But I think for the most part, people are going to be very happy with this.
Does it have good online play at least?
Yes, it's fine. Okay. Yeah, I mean that depends on your Wi-Fi and stuff. But yeah, it's the same as Madden, really. So
yeah.
I mean, would you
say you like this more than Madden, or about the same, or?
I like this more than Madden because I like college football better than NFL generally anyway. Because I'm a big college football. Because you live in Florida, college football is like king. Like it's like people live and breathe college football.
Okay.
But it's also because you get to play as so many more teams, and you get to it's a lot of fun like building up like a small program that's like in the middle of like Utah or something. And then having them compete for a national championship, that's fun. Like you don't get to do that in Madden because everybody's a professional.
Sure.
but and I think it plays better. I like the fast stuff because this game is more like because like college football is the same way. Where everything's more fast. Like everybody plays more of a spread offense. Everything's more like pass, pass, pass. Everything and everybody goes like a no huddle kind of offense where it's like they just go really really fast. They do a play every like second. Like they do like they want to get like 70, 80 plays in a game. And so this game flows a lot faster. But I don't like that this game doesn't do the accelerated clock. You have to turn the accelerated clock on, and if you don't do that, it makes the game long. Like the clock, like if you huddle, it huddles really fast, but the clock does not accelerate it like it does in Madden. So it makes it feel longer than it should be. So
Right.
you have to turn. It's not a big complaint because you can turn it on, but like it should be the
Right.
default. I don't know why it's not the default, but.
Sure.
But yeah, and the visuals look great. I think it looks really good. It pops really well. It's not on PC, so I bought it on PS5. I really wish they did put it on PC, but it's not a big deal. Most people, I think a lot of people prefer football games on consoles anyway. So overall, it's a good start for the college football series. It's going to be an annual series, I'd imagine. Now that the NIL deals there and players get paid and everybody's
Right.
pretty happy
Which is good.
getting paid and their likeness and all. They're getting asked permission if they can use their likeness or not. A lot of players are going to say yes, like I said. So I imagine this is going to be an annual series now. So this is a good start. There's a lack of content. Could be better. Not a perfect game. I think it's like an 8 out of 10. But it's a very good start for a series that's been dormant for 11 years. They just need to add more features that we had in a game 11 years ago. I don't think there's any excuse for that. But I mean, they've been working on this for it feels like they've been working on this for years, 3 years now. I think they announced that they were working on this game a couple years ago.
I feel like they will add that content for the next year's edition.
Yeah, just add, like the Road to Glory, like just add the high school stuff. Like that was really fun and building and like actually letting you make your own high school again and building your way to college and then doing the college stuff. Like the Road to Glory, once you get the actual mode itself is good. I like it. Like you get to do different things like you do practice and you got to earn your coach's trust, and then you do like side things like you'll get tested on like different quizzes like you're in school, and you have like it's kind of like a survival game where it's like you have to make sure you're studying so you have a right GPA. You have to make sure that you'll have a friend ask you, you want to go to a party or do you want to practice instead? And you take the risk, that kind of thing. It's kind of some role playing there. That kind of stuff is cool. It'd be cool if they did like a whole story with that, like kind of like what NBA 2K does. Even though that's kind of bare bones, but it's still a cool feature. I would like to see them do that, but most likely they're not going to do that because they know people are going to buy these games anyway. Me being one of them, so they can do the bare minimum and still sell a lot of copies anyway.
Of course.
So I don't expect that, but there's a lot you can do. So overall, good game. I recommend it if you like football in college, especially college football. I mean, this is the only college football game, like AAA one. So I would definitely pick it up if you like football. All right, so that's what I was playing. I'll go through what I've been playing besides that, and it's really quick. I beat Kingdom Hearts 1 today. Kingdom Hearts 1.
I'm very proud of him because it's been 20 years. So, I mean, good for Seb here.
Yes, I've beat it many times since the PS2 on 2002. I was 9. The first game doesn't age well. It has that Square Enix early 2000s vibe where like we just put obscure puzzles in there and we put obscure things like let's do like the Beauty and the Beast Hollow Bastion. Let's do like a little maze section for like absolutely no reason but the paddle at the time. Final Fantasy X did this very same thing. And something about Square Enix's like early 2000s games where they kind of had an obsession with obscure sequences and puzzles. Their maps do not age well, especially the Tarzan level. It's very finicky. The platforming is terrible. But the gameplay is still really fun. I still have a blast with the combat. I think it's not as good as like obviously as Kingdom Hearts 2 or even 3, but it's still I think a lot of people would like that. And I think it still looks good because it's the final mixed version. It's remastered. It's obviously it looks a lot better than the PS2 version. I mean, the PC version is pretty much the same version as the PS4 version that I played, so it's not like anything crazy, but it's definitely better than the PS2 version. The final mix version is the definitive version of Kingdom Hearts. There's absolutely no reason to play the original. It has all the features and everything. So I recommend it still. I think it's a good start for the series. It's just there's way better games in the future. As I've beaten them all, but there's definitely way better games. And then the other games we'll talk about because we're not there yet. So Dory, what have you been playing? And you're muted. You're muted.
I am still, yes, I was muted. I am still playing Dragon Age Origins. Wanted to talk about it a little bit more. I am in that section of the game where you are in the Fade. So I'm shape-shifting into various creatures, trying to get out, trying to rescue my companions, trying to liberate this tower from these demons that are attacking these mages. It's basically like Fantasy Tropes 101. But I have been absolutely loving it so far. Once I've embraced Dragon Age Origins as basically a turn-based combat with some real-time action, it's been working wonders on me. I love the characters, love the dialogue. I think two of my favorite characters are Alistair and what's the witch's name? I forget her name. Morga. I don't remember her name. But anyway, those two have such great chemistry because Alistair is a former Templar, so he used to, he almost became a Templar, as he likes to remind people, but he, was hunting witches and stuff like that, or was about to, and hunting dark magic, and so she is very much into dark magic. So they have this very kind of catty relationship with each other, which is just very funny every time they talk to each other. And Alistair is not the smartest guy. He's a nice guy, but he's not the brightest guy. And she likes making fun of him for that. It's just great dialogue, great banter. There's a lot of good characters, too. I decided to rescue this Quinari from jail cell, and now he's like my second warrior. I don't really need Lilandra because she's a rogue and I'm a rogue. Lilana, because she's a rogue and I'm a rogue. So I've kind of kept her out of the party unless I need like that extra oomph for lockpicking or something. Yeah, I think I'm about like level 8, level 9. Besides that, I mean, I just completed some of my first side quests on the game. From some of my first like major quests and stuff, I finished up one of the big towns, and now I fought against some zombies, which was pretty easy. And yeah, there's just a lot of like good intrigue. There's a lot of good choice making. I do cheat every now and then, cheat by like looking up like, okay, like what's going to happen if I make this choice? Because like I wanted to make a certain choice concerning like this kid being possessed by a demon, but I was like, they seem to be intimating that if I do that, something bad could happen. I'm like, does something bad actually happen? And basically no. So I've gone off to help the Magi Circle, which is where I am now. But other games we'll talk about later have kind of hindered me in terms of getting any further in the game. But yeah, I've been really enjoying myself. The Fade's really interesting. There's a lot of people who don't like the Fade on a return playthrough because it's kind of long and it's very mazy. And I believe it's also randomly generated, so it's different every playthrough, so you can't just like cheese it. I'm not positive on that though, but that seems to be my impression. So they actually have a mod called Skip the Fade, which I mean sounds like a drug. Come on. But also like is probably needed. I can see this section getting frustrating for a returning player because although I'm having a good time as a first-time player, you get to shapeshift into a mouse, into a mage, into this big stone golem. Like it's really cool. But I can imagine like coming back and you're already familiar with like the creatures you can be and the paths you can take. It's just not as interesting. Like I can see that, and that's kind of like tempered like my excitement for the Fade because I can see why this would be annoying to go back through. I don't know if you get trapped there no matter what. I got trapped there because I opened up a door, said hello to a demon, and then he said, say hello to the Fade. So now I'm just trapped there. I'm almost out. I'm like really close. But unfortunately, other games came out. I had to pause so I could play them for the podcast. And I want to build up my top 10 list. I only have a top 7 so far. So those took priority. But yeah, Dragon Age Origins really good so far. I believe I have about 10, 15 hours in it. I've only gotten past the prologue, the tutorials. I got past the first town. I believe I have most of the companions at this point, maybe all of them, but at least most of them. Leilana, Sten, Alistair, the dog, of course, the witch, whose name I keep forgetting, and I think that's it for right now. But and Win. I just got Win. So yeah, I'm really enjoying myself. It feels kind of very reminiscent of Baldur's Gate in a way, and I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. The combat's really good. It feels very satisfying to get a victory in a fight. And yeah, like I said last time, the graphics don't really hold up, but that's okay. I'm not really there for the graphics. The story and the writing is really what makes it for me. Other than that, other than Dragon Age Origins, I did play a couple of demos last week. I played Dungeons of Hinterberg, which we'll talk about next week. And I also played Sandborn. Sandborn is kind of an action adventure, choice-based game.
You mean Dustborn?
Dustborn, not Sandborn. Dustborn. Sandborn seems to make more sense, but anyway, Dustborn. I expected to actually like this game a lot, and the demo didn't leave me very impressed. The combat felt a bit wonky at times. Targeting and hitting felt off. The characters felt just too like I'm into punk. I'm into fuck the man and Ixnay on the hombre and all that stuff. But I don't. This just felt very cliche. Like it felt very try-hardy. In terms of being rebellious, it felt very cliche and stereotypical in terms of we're rebels against the man kind of thing. And again, I'm into that, but the way that it was done, I don't know about. It didn't really grab me super much.
Was it two? Was it two on the nose?
Yeah, it felt like two on the nose, and I just felt like the characters themselves. It's a demo, right? So I mean, I could be totally wrong. It's also skipping around from place to place because it wants to give you an overview of the gameplay. So there's a part where you interact with the environment. There's a part where you make choices, and then there's a part where you have action, right? And you fight a boss and stuff. And none of that really clicked for me. It wasn't terrible, and I love the comic book vibe of it. But this is one I'm more tempered on now. I will be definitely paying attention to reviews, which I already would have been, but now I'm going to more cautiously look at it because, yeah, it didn't really hit for me. And I was disappointed about that because I wanted to like the game. But like I said, the action just felt a bit forced. It didn't feel like it really needed to be there. And when it was there, it didn't feel very good. It didn't feel terrible, right? I played worse games for sure. But it felt kind of very middling, I guess I would say. None of the characters really stood out to me in terms of voice acting and writing. And that's not always a killer, as we'll talk about later with another game. But in a game like this, that's very narrative driven, that is a bigger deal. That was my impression of Dustborn. And I also played a couple other demos. But like I said, we'll talk about Dungeons of Hinterberg next week, and we'll talk about Flintlock in this episode. Yes. And that's pretty much everything I've been playing.
So you've been playing Flintlock, Siege of the Dawn, correct?
Correct. I just played the first, I want to say 3.5 hours, but it's probably closer to 4 hours or more, given that I have, done the demo as well for it, and the progress did not keep over for it because I was on a different platform. So that was a big bummer.
That was lame.
Yeah. So, and I played the demo on Steam because it wasn't available on Game Pass. I wanted to make sure I like it. But now I'm playing the whole game on Game Pass. So, but it took me 45 minutes to get back to where I was. It was pretty much no sweat. I didn't really die at all. I knew what I was doing more or less. I mean, I needed a little bit of a refresher. But it wasn't that bad.
So tell us about what's the story? What's going on?
Sure. Yeah. So basically what's going on is that you are an idiot and you shot through a wall, magical wall, with your gun and unleashed all of the gods on humanity. And shoot first, ask questions later. Maybe not the best policy, it turns out, for Nor. Nor is our main character. She is called a sapper. Sappers are not people who cry at the Notebook, but they are instead people who basically like go in the trenches and fight, and they are, they're like foot soldiers, basically, is what I'm getting from the game. I could be misinterpreting, and they also are good with explosions. I believe they use sap in that process, and that's why they're called sappers. I could be wrong. But basically, Nor is a kind of middling rank foot soldier. She gets put into action by her commander because some of her comrades haven't come back, and so she goes after them after getting permission, and then basically unleashes gods onto the world just by shooting this random magical barrier on her way to help blow up this door. And you wake up, and this little fox god named Enki, who's very cute, and I like him a lot. I think he's great. He's very... I mean, it's nothing original, right? It's a fish out of water story for Enki. There's a lot of stuff about humanity he doesn't understand, but I'm a sucker for that kind of trope because I also don't understand a lot of things that humanity does. And I also just think it's nice to have a character who's like, like, what is a water wheel? And then Nor's like, well, this is what it is. And he's like, this is awesome. Can we stay here? She's like, no, we have to go kill gods. He's like, I will be back later for this. And it was just like, it's cute. It's endearing. He's like the best character for sure. Nor is sadly not the best character. She's not bad, but she's not great either. But yeah, your basic goal in Siege of Dawn, it's called that because the Dawn is like, I'm going to completely mess it up, but it's basically like the Dawn is like an area, I think, where the gods reside, and you've broken that apart, and now the gods are like sieging or whatever. It's really contrived. But Flintlock makes a lot of sense because Flintlock is your main way of interrupting uninterruptible attacks. So that's one of the big differences between this game and other Souls games. This is a Souls-like. It does have difficulty adjustments. You can do it at any time, which is lovely. I've not had to do it once. I've only died.
But the story
in the first. What's that?
The story difficulty disables achievements.
Yes. I will say you cannot get achievements if you go to story. I'm on normal right now. I'm not on punishing or whatever it's called. But it's I find it very balanced overall. It can be a little tricky sometimes when you have a lot of enemies coming at you at once, but Nor has various means of dealing with that. You can get a blunderbuss, you can get grenades. Enki has these special curse attacks that can do AoE effects. So you have ways to deal with hordes, but it can get very difficult because a lot of enemies are hitting you at once.
How many enemies?
What's that?
Like, how many enemies can you get at a time?
So one of the game's favorite thing to do is like have a horde of like regular enemies. So it's kind of like if a bunch of zombies attacked you in like, one of Romero's films, George Romero's film, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of the situation. Sometimes there's some stronger zombies mixed in.
Because sometimes, some problems with some Souls games like Lord of the Fallen or like Dark Souls 2 is they just swarm you with like too many enemies in the one area that wasn't meant to have that many enemies on one. And
you can see that they actually planned.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could see. You could see that they actually did plan for that. I mean, Enki can back you up. You can use a blunderbuss. You can use grenades. I find the checkpoints pretty forgiving. So even when you do lose to a horde, you can come right back.
It's like a bonfire system, or
yes, like a bonfire system. So they're called lodestones, but there are also literal campfires from time to time, and those are called campsites. And where there you can upgrade your weapons, you can chat with people, you can play this kind of side game. I think I forget what it's called, but there's like a side game within the game that you can play, and it gets you reputation. Reputation is kind of this game's version of Souls. So the more enemies you kill, the higher your reputation goes, the higher your percentage of damage increase goes. So the moment you're hit, though, it goes back down to 0. So it's a real risk and reward system. I think it works beautifully. I think it's one of the best things about the game. There's a real sense of achievement in not getting hit, not only not getting hit, but getting that reputation higher and higher and higher, getting your damage modifier higher, and then collecting all that reputation, putting it in your bank or whatever, which of course you lose if you die, but then you can go back to it. but if you die on the way back to it, you don't get it. Same thing with Jedi Fallen Order and all the other Souls games. But yeah, so Reputation's a really cool system. I like it a lot. The game is trying to do, and I know this because I've just watched a lot of reviews on it, I think 3 or 4, a lot of different things. And I respect the hustle, but it can't really nail some of those things. I don't think it's a bad game. Actually, I think so far it's a great game. It just struggles sometimes under the weight of its aspirations. And for example, right, sometimes the game just can't keep up with gameplay, right? Which is a pretty basic problem to have in a combat game. Now, most of the time it's fine, but every now and then you do get hit from behind when you're not expecting it. There's no audio cue or visual cue, so that can be frustrating. I had an enemy that I thought was dead, straight up dead, and suddenly hit me from behind, and I had to quickly strike him. Some of the platforming doesn't really work. Like, it's a little finicky. It does work, but it's finicky. The ledge grab in particular can be a little iffy. Now, you do have ways of getting out of fall damage. So you have gunpowder obviously is a big part of this game because it's called Flintlock, and your gun interrupts enemies. So you basically get more gunpowder from attacking enemies. So if you hear a noise in the background, that's my AC getting rained on. But anyway, nothing I do about that. But yeah. So yeah, basically you get more gunpowder for more shots by attacking enemies, and you can use those gunpowder shots to interrupt enemies, but you can't interrupt them if you're not attacking. It's a whole feedback loop. But also what you can do with the gunpowder is Enki gives you this magic and infuses with it, and basically it allows you to do a double jump or a kind of like a dodge, aerial dodge, which you can also use as like a triple jump. Kind of, it's like a half jump, and that helps you take fall damage basically. So right at the last second, you can press A or you can press B, either one, and you'll avoid taking fall damage. And I found it pretty responsive so far. So yeah, the platforming's not great, and sometimes the camera is a little finicky. The game doesn't look the best. I think it looks fine, but it definitely doesn't look the best.
What's the performance?
In terms of performance is okay. I'm on balanced, so I'm not going to attest to how it does on high performance settings because I don't know. But at least on balanced, it looks nice. I've only had one crash. I haven't really had any bugs or glitches. I think Enki was sitting on a rock.
Is it like 60? Is it like 60 frames? Sorry, is it like 60 frames or?
I don't know. I don't really usually pay attention to that unless the frame rate's horrendous. The frame rate for me is fine.
So it's not horrendous. You would notice if it was horrendous, I think.
Right, yeah. Exactly. But yeah, I don't know if it's 60 or what. I imagine it's hovering around 30 FPS, but I don't know for a fact. The story's kind of ho-hum. That's the other problem with it. It's not very memorable. It's the game's an excuse just to have a combat system, really, I think. And that's fine. I think combat's more important in a game like this. This is what I was talking about earlier. With Dustborn, it's like the story and the narrative are really important, so I'm going to look at those higher than I would in a game like Flintlock, where the game is kind of told through these very stylistic cutscenes, as well as basic exposition and some notes. But it's not really anything worth writing home about. Nor has a good motivation. She freed the gods, now she has to kill them. Enki wants to help her out for his own mysterious reasons. It's fine. It accomplishes the job. It gets the plot moving. It's not terrible or anything. But you also I don't feel super invested in the world. I don't really care about Nor as a character. I like Enki as a character, but that's about it. The side characters are really nothing either. I mean, she has a nice relationship with one of the people at your camp, who is basically her father figure, and I think that's a nice relationship. But again, it's not much of a relationship. It's mostly few sentences here and there that exposit it.
So it's a game. It's more about the gameplay. This game is.
Yes, it's definitely more about the gameplay, and I think luckily the gameplay is really good for me. I'm not a big Souls fan. I've been over that ad nauseum, so I won't go at length about that. But I tried Another Crab's Treasure, which was a Souls-like this year, and I really enjoyed it. I had some problems with it, but I thought it was great overall. And I think similar for this. I think this is a great game. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I know that there are some fucking incels who are really upset that diversity, equity, inclusion got involved in the game, and some company named Sweet Baby Inc. was involved in it or something. But like, I couldn't tell you in what way that actually matters, because the game, besides the main character being black, which scary, there's not really a lot going on here that screams to me like, oh, it's trying to be very political or whatever. It's a cookie cutter theme of saving the world and righting your wrongs, and I don't really see anything controversial about this game. I think people are just making presumptions because of their own biases, and there's nothing inherently wrong with having biases, but these are just bad ones. The game is fine. In that respect. I think overall the game's actually great so far. I'm about 4 hours in. I will complain about the level design. This is something that I forget his name. I think ADG or something like that, YouTube channel. He was complaining about level design in a much more articulate way than I can, but it's very weird. Sometimes, like, I was in a mine and like I just couldn't figure out how I was supposed to get up higher to go around to get to my destination. So I had to like look up a guide. And then in another part of the mine, like I couldn't figure out what part of the platform I was supposed to jump to get to the other. And so again, I had to look it up. So it's sometimes the level design can be frustrating because it really feels like it's made for gameplay and not for actual beings. That also kind of takes you out of the world, right? It's not a big deal. For me, that's like a minor criticism, but it does hurt the game a little bit when it's like, I don't feel like anybody could actually have worked in this mine, you know? It's like, what are we doing here?
Is it?
Yeah.
Now, is the gameplay like really fast, or is it like
yes,
Dark Souls, or is it like...
This is fast gameplay. You can dodge, you can parry, you can jump up in the air. I've actually dodged by jumping, which is not really intended, but you can do it. It's very fast paced. Fights are over usually in less than a minute.
So it's like more. So it's more like hack and slash kind of gameplay.
Yes, it's more hack. It's definitely closer to like Sekiro or Bloodborne, although you're not trying to break anybody's guard meter or anything like that. Except unless they have armor, you can do this thing with Enki where you can curse them, and basically, like if you curse them enough, you can you can stun them for a second, and then Nor does this cool move to like take off their armor or take off their shield or whatever. And that's like one of the things you can do. It's not really a guard meter per se, but it does make the fight easier. Obviously, it gets rid of some of the armor, so it makes hitting them more effective. You know, you hit for harder. Yeah, you can. Oh, and then a couple other things I want to mention. There's different uniforms you can get, but that's just style mostly. You can get different colors and stuff. I haven't bothered with that.
No stats or anything?
So there are some stats. You can get it helmets, and I want to say shoulder pads and gauntlets, maybe? I don't know. I've only unlocked the helmet, so I can only speak to that. But the helmets can give you various perks. And basically, if you match a set, you get bonus perks. So if like 2 or 3 things match up, if they're from the same set, then you'll get bonus stats. Now, I'm not far enough in the game to have gotten that, so I can't speak to how effective that is or how much it's worth going out of your way. One thing I will say that's not really worth going out of your way so far is the side quests. I've only done a couple of them, though, but from what I've heard of the reviews, they don't really go that great. If you want extra resources, if you just want to play the game longer, no shame in that. I think that my dog is very itchy. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Kylo.
If you hear that noise, that's
really, buddy?
That's Dory's dog's collar.
You don't need to do that right now. I know, I love you too.
So, okay. According to how long to beat, it's 5 hours if you just do the...
That's not accurate.
If you just do the main story only. If you do the extras, it's 15 hours.
I would say that's not accurate. I'm 3.5 hours in. I don't feel anywhere close to being done. Make sure to keep an eagle eye on how many people they polled, because they only polled one person. To get 5 hours. Yeah, so
that's interesting. I don't know. One person. It's been a couple days.
Yeah, that's very weird, right? But I don't know what that dude was on. I don't know what drugs they were taking to beat the game in 5 hours, because I'm 3.5 hours in and I do not feel anywhere near done.
Just to be clear, the PC one, the main one, says there's 3 people were pulled. It says 9 hours from the main. And
yeah, that sounds closer. I've heard 10 to 15 hours for the game. I'm going to do the side quest, so it'll probably be like 10 to 15 hours for me.
Yeah.
This isn't a super long game, but I feel like it is a great game. IGN gave it a 7, Gaming Bolt gave it an 8, and various people have been kind of mixed on it. It's got 69.9, nice, on Fantasy Critic right now. So it's not a masterpiece, and I'm not calling it that. But for me personally, I love action RPGs. I don't care that the story, the voice acting, and the writing isn't super strong. It's all passable for me, and definitely that brings it down from like being higher. But I think it's super solid. The gameplay is really fun. It's really rewarding. I'm not going to say it's super challenging because you have, even almost 4 hours in, I have a lot of tools to deal with enemies. I have grenades. I have healing, of course. I have a weapon that can take out enemies from afar, but only like limited shots. And then I have my main flintlock pistol, and I have a what's the down? I forget what the down one is, and my axe, of course, right? And you can upgrade all that stuff too, and give it more shots. And the really busted part about the skill tree is the magic. You can just stun enemies for a while. And if you time your attacks with Enki, you can actually do bonus damage, like 10% bonus damage. And then I think there's an upgrade that gives you 25% bonus damage. So this is definitely going to be that kind of game where the further in the game you get, the better, not only the better you're going to be, but the easier it probably will be. I don't see myself changing to easy anytime soon. I've only lost to bosses maybe once or twice. I've only fought a few bosses, right? But when I have, I've only died maybe once or twice before nailing it. These are not Kingdom Hearts 3 critical mode data bosses, right? By any means. These feel to me, very well balanced for the most part. There are some cheap places where exploding enemies will be coming out of nowhere, and there will be like TNT basically next to you. But overall, I feel like the game is very fair, and even that feels very Dark Souls appropriate, right? They did the same thing in Stellar Blade. They do the same thing in Dark Souls. They do this. I think they did the same thing in the Jedi games, right? Enemies coming out of the corner or your blind side or whatever. It's a favorite thing in Souls games. Just to fuck with you. So, but yeah, overall, I'm having a great time, and I think it's a really good game overall. There's definitely some problems with it. What Seb was saying earlier about college football reminded me of what I think about Flintlock. I think it's a really good game, not 88, but it's a really good game. But it definitely has its problems, which I've already outlined. And I think it's worth giving a shot, especially because it's on Game Pass. Now, I'm not recommending buying this game for full price necessarily. If you really want to scratch that itch of a Souls-like, I mean, I promise you there's probably better out there. But for a Game Pass game, I think this is absolutely worth giving a shot at least. I would say play the first hour. If it's not grabbing you, bail. No harm really there. But I'm really enjoying myself, and this is the second Souls-like this year that I've enjoyed. We'll see if I actually play Black Myth Wukong, but that's a whole different story because I feel like that will be much tougher. But yeah, Seb, I think you'll enjoy it. I don't think it'll be on your GOTY list or anything like that, but I think it is worth giving a shot. And if you don't like it in the first hour or so, which I think is representative generally of a whole game, or at least a lot of it, obviously your mileage may vary.
Right. So that's Flintlock. So our last topic of the night, as I said, it's going to be a shorter episode. Nobody Wants to Die came out. Dory and I both beat it. I'll start just to give Dory a break.
Yes.
Nobody Wants to Die is a first-person narrative-driven puzzle game. Basically, it basically uses elements from the Batman games and Cyberpunk, where you trying to find evidence by using devices, and you rewind and fast forward time to figure out to see the evidence. Very very much like how Cyberpunk did it. It even has the same aesthetic as Cyberpunk. It takes place in New York City in 2329. You play as James Carr, a detective, and there's a whole mystery to it. Basically, I'm not gonna say like the story, but nobody dies. Basically, it's a retro future where like it's like a mix of Cyberpunk, Blade Runner, and like The Matrix. And people can basically pay to move their conscious into another body and they pay money to do so. It has a very Fallout aesthetic with the marketing, the advertising. Like, you know, like Fallout always uses like the Vault Boy and like the commercial, like the fake commercials that they do. This game does very much the same thing. It very much so has like a 1930s noir style to it, and it's in the future, like hundreds of years in the future, but it has like a 1930s aesthetic to it, which is a really cool mix. I really think the visuals of this game are fantastic. I played it on my 4080, and I played on ultra settings, and this game looks amazing. It's a AAA game. Maybe not so much the in terms of the gameplay, but in terms of the visuals, it is very much so a high-end game. This game won't be for everybody. This is very much so a narrative-driven mystery game. You're not going to be. There's not really any combat. There's no like. You're not cyber. It's not Cyberpunk where you have different play styles and you shoot up a building or sneak around or kill people. You're solving. You're trying to solve a mystery by finding evidence, by using different tools that you get. This game will not be for everybody. Like I don't just look at the visuals and assume, oh, this game is for me. It might not be. But Dory and I both really enjoyed it. Dory likes it a little more than I did because I really soured on the ending. But I think the visuals are fantastic. I think the voice acting is mostly good to great. There's some cheesy things here and there in the voice acting that I didn't care for, but for the most part, I think the voice acting is strong, and the music is great. I think the sound design's amazing. It really sounded good to me. It's just the gameplay is it's okay. I think some of the mini game aspects to it, like when you fast forward or rewind, or like you have to hold down the mouse to like hold down mouse to like you know when the meter's going up and you have to hold down left and right. Sometimes you have to hold down both mouse. Like that's kind of it's not great. It's just whatever. It's not really a complaint. It's not very intuitive. It's not anything crazy. But I think I was finding the clues pretty good. I don't think I was stuck really. I think I was doing a good job getting through the game. I really like the dynamic between James and Sarah. That was one of the best parts of the game. The dialogue between the two. I like the chief character was very stereotypical angry chief character that you get in everything. It was kind of a tropey, but it was fine. But my biggest complaint about the game is there's a drastic. It just doesn't. I don't want to. I guess I can't really say this because it might ruin the story. But it's just. I wish the mystery was explained better. I feel like this game could have been longer. Like I feel like there's like 3 to 5 hours missing that should have been in there to fill in the gaps. Because I feel like it kind of just ends. I feel like I wasn't satisfied with the mystery itself. Because this whole game is about the mystery. If the mystery doesn't work, then it doesn't work, right? Because the gameplay is not like it's not a gameplay heavy game. It's more about finding the clues and stuff. So if the narrative doesn't work, it sours it for me more. It'd be more forgiving if the gameplay was better. I'm not saying the gameplay is bad. I'm just saying the narrative has to hit home in this kind of game. It's a mystery. Everything's building up to that moment. But I think I don't think it's a great anymore, but I think it's good. I still think it's a good game. I'm happy with it. I really enjoyed my time with it. I recommend it, but it's not. But it wasn't. I didn't think it was amazing when I finished it. So, Dory, what was your thoughts on it?
You're a coward. This game's awesome. No, I'm kidding. No, I actually do agree with Seb a little bit. The ending was a bit of a downer for me. I actually got the bad ending. I didn't understand how I got the bad ending. I was a blind sheep and did what the fucking game was putting on the screen. You know, pressing X X X X X. I was like, oh, okay. Well, it wants me to do that. That must be the right option, right? Total. Totally not the right thing to do. Anyway, yeah, I've been hyped about this game for a bit. It looks gorgeous. First off, let me get that out of the way using Unreal Engine 5, I think. It looks beautiful. You know, there are times where I notice certain assets like the blood and stuff like that, or especially in like the train section later in the game, was a little bit like off or overused.
Yeah.
But generally, yeah. generally speaking, I think the game looks beautiful. Sometimes if you look closely at characters, like when Sarah's typing on her computer or whatever, you can tell that like they didn't really do the animations.
It's one of those. But it's one of those AAA indie games. Like you can tell.
Yes,
you can still tell it's indie. You can still tell it's indie.
Yes, you can still. It definitely feels like a AA game. It's Critical Hits game. I've never heard of them before. I don't think they've ever done anything big. Question mark. It's for a first game. If this is the first game, what a home run for me personally. Now, some background. I love detective games. I love noir. I love neo-noir. I am a big sucker for all that stuff. The whole, I was smoking my cigarette in the rain and looking at this decaying city in front of me. Like that whole like fucking bullshit. Love it. Absolutely love it. And this has that in spades. Now, some of it's ironic, but a lot of it's very serious. And like that could either hit or miss for you depending on your tolerance for it. I personally love that stuff. I think it's great. The writing in this game is so top-notch, except for the ending. And it's just so beautifully realized. It's such a interesting world. I wish we got to spend more time in, just like Seb says. I don't agree with 3 to 5 hours, but there definitely was at least another hour or two in this game, minimum, that we could have gotten more explanation, because I'm still confused what the fuck happened at the end. And I got the bad ending, so I wasn't exactly left feeling great. And then even when I looked at the various endings, there are 4 endings that you can get for the game. It wasn't great. None of the endings to me really felt satisfactory. I guess the 4th happy one felt the most satisfactory. Even then,
I think like I don't mind the gameplay, but I would have liked if this game kind of expanded on its world a little more, because there's a lot of scenes in this game where like you could kind of just sit in the car and talk to in monologue, which is fine, but it kind of but they keep doing it like a little too much. It would have been cool to have more like dialogue with different characters. Like it would have been cool to have more different settings where you're walking around the street and you're talking to people and stuff. Like
yes,
there could have been elements like like when there's the actual dialogue trees or something. You know, like a Mass Effect game or a Fallout game, where like it's missing that kind of stuff. I think
it definitely feels like you, Sarah, and the Chief are like the only people in the world who really exist at any level. Again, that kind of AA indie budget, where it's not quite a AAA game, but it's definitely not a regular indie game. I mean, most indie games, a lot of AAA games I see do not look this good. So this game, I mean, it's stunning in terms of its writing and its voice acting. Good. I wouldn't say it's fantastic, but I think it's good.
It has its moments where it's cheesy, but for the most part, it's good. I think.
And I think also it pays very good homage to the source material and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of this is based on cyberpunk stuff like Altered Carbon and classic like noir films from the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, it's dystopian.
Yes, and a dystopian too. I loved James Cara as a character. I mean, very classic. Wife issues. Drunk, addicted to drugs, self-hating. I mean, all the good stuff that you want in a noir things. Pretty much a checklist.
Yeah.
Monologuing. Pretty much a checklist. Everything's about him, even though he thinks he sucks. Remember, everybody, self-esteem problems is its own type of narcissism for some people. But anyway, and Sarah's great too. Her character is really good. Her motivations were good. And I thought at first, I thought a reveal was something. I can't get into it. But like the way that the game laid it out, I was confused at first. Because like when you go to a certain area and you meet a character for the first time, I thought they were revealing them as a different character. I think Seb knows what I mean. But like I got a little confused because James is kind of messed up in the head. He hasn't completely synchronized to his new body. I don't know. I haven't seen Altered Carbon, but it's very similar to that. Basically, these bodies. Yeah. Seb, let me know if you've already said this, but there are bodies put on an auction by the government. Basically, the government owns you. They own your body. They own just about everything. And the subscription price or age is at like 21. So you either have to afford your new body or you have to... or you basically, because of the way that the world is with acid rain and pollution and just how messed up the world is at this point, you die usually pretty early in your life. So yeah, the government has these auctions for bodies.
But you
and then go ahead.
But you get discounts if you're a VIP or a special type of person,
right?
Or
Of course.
and it's like a lotto. I think like if they have available poor bodies, they give it to people, different people.
Right. So there's a lot of commentary on rich and poor and political stuff and philosophical stuff. You know, if you don't like politics and philosophy in your game, I don't know why you're playing a game called Nobody Wants to Die, because I mean that's not a heavy title. I don't know what it is.
This game is very much focused on classism.
Yes, very focused on classism and the hierarchy. I mean, I could have easily seen this game being made 10-ish years ago, made in response to the Occupy movement. There's some similar themes there. It's very well done, but I have to agree with Seb. The ending is a bit of a down note. I had this game at a 4.5 because for me it was just hidden. There's some small things like sometimes like I did find all the evidence okay, and I didn't usually need to press the square button, which on PlayStation, which for me was a like a hint thing, and it like makes the environment black and white and like says, "Hey, here you dummy over there." But I did have to use it every now and then. One of my kind of annoying things, couple annoying things, is that sometimes when you're in the when you're using the thing that makes time go back and forward, and you go into that big yellow circle where the event that you're trying to discern is happening. I don't know if that makes any sense, but sometimes you'll hear like a click and like that'll be the clue you're supposed to look at, but the audio cue doesn't really put you in a direction. And so I feel like for 80% of the game, James Carr is like for me anyway, like looking at like a total dumbass, like best detective in the world, but absolute dumbass about finding clues. So for me, I wanted a way to make the analyze button a little bit bigger with the X icon, because sometimes it blended into the environment. Sometimes I just couldn't see it. It wasn't a big deal, but it was enough that I noticed it and I was like, what are we doing, guys? Like, can we make this a little bigger? Like, I'd like to be able to see. The other issue I had with the game, besides the ending, I have the 3 issues, and I've already talked about the ending. So the last thing I want to mention too, sometimes it feels like they didn't give enough space in the recording of voice lines, because James will say something and then Sarah will say something like a split second later, and it's just not spaced out enough. It doesn't feel very natural. Again, this is a very minor criticism, and in any normal game, it probably wouldn't be a criticism at all. But since this is so narratively focused and so like motivated by dialogue and characters and story, it can't really have that because it can't get off free with having that kind of issue. But yeah, besides that, I mean, I loved it. I love the setting. I love the characters. The dialogue is fantastic. The writing is excellent. I honestly think, and this is reckless speculation on my part, I honestly feel like Critical Hit ran out of budget and they just couldn't make the game any longer. Now, again, I could be totally wrong. Maybe this was their original vision, but this really feels, just like Seb said, to a slightly less degree, this really feels like a game that got cut off in its prime. Like, we were really going towards something really cool, and then it just ended. It just kind of ended. And I just feel like it didn't deserve the ending it got. I was very confused about who the killer even was. I'm still not completely sure what even happens at the end, which is a bummer, because for me, like, I agree with Seb, that definitely sours it if the conclusion's not great. But for me, the journey was so good and so like gorgeously rendered that it didn't bother me as much. It definitely bothered me, don't get me wrong. It went from like a 4.5 to like a 4.25 kind of situation for me. But like, yeah, it was a bummer. I wanted to like this game more than I did. I still do really like it, but it felt like the game director realized in the last, to go back to football, college football for a second, in the last 10 yards, realized, oh shit, we're out of budget, and like couldn't quite stick the landing there. So that was my interpretation of it. I don't know if that's actually what happened. It does happen with video games. I mean, hell, it happened with Neon Genesis Evangelion. So it's happened before. I don't know if that's what the case is, but that would make sense to me. But yeah, my voice is going. Seb, anything you want to add?
No, I mean, you pretty much nailed what I said. I feel like I said, I just feel like there's a gap missing. Like, I feel like there's a great foundation here. I feel like the world's really great. I think this game does a great job world building. And I hope like in their next game is a sequel or at least in the same world and they build on it. I imagine they're gonna focus on puzzles again, but I do hope they do a little more extra like maybe give it some combat or if at least not if not combat, vary the gameplay a little more. For the most part, I had 2/3 of this game. I thought it was great. I was really into it. I was really happy, and then the third act it was like Resident Evil 7 for me, where it was like 2/3 of the game is just fantastic, and then the ending is just like, huh. I don't like where this ended, but it's still an 8 out of 10 for me. It's not awful. It didn't like destroy the game or anything. It went from great. It went from like being like a 9 out of 10 for me, fantastic, to good. To great.
Yeah, I agree with that. Seb and I are like difference of degrees here. I didn't hurt me as bad for him, but I agree with his fundamental point here that it did hurt the game.
Because you're building up to the mystery. That's the whole point of the
the whole point of the game. But yeah, I don't know how they thought they just wouldn't stick the landing at all. I also think it was really shitty that I got. This is personal, but I got the bad ending, and I still don't really understand because they made it seem like not shooting a certain character was the right choice, and I thought that, I don't know, I thought that Green, this character that's in it was or wasn't, and I don't know. It was just confusing to me how I deserved the agony ending, which is basically the worst ending you can get. And it just like sucked. So that didn't help, but it definitely like, I was already pretty unhappy with the ending. And then Seb's like, yeah, I think you got the bad ending. And I'm like, the fuck? Like how?
Yeah. So, and I don't think there's a checkpoint system or.
No, you can't. I already tried. I tried to go back and I wanted to see if I could do different choices.
You have to do a whole.
There's you have to replay the whole game. And this is, I guess if I had one last criticism, I will never go back through this game because there's just too much pausing, walking around, forced cutscenes. Like, I mean, you can skip a lot of them, but it's like, it just feels like too much of a time investment just to get a slightly different ending, which you can watch on YouTube for free. I did.
It's not replayable at all.
It's not replayable at all. No,
it's a one-time thing, which is fine. It's a good one-time playthrough. Don't get me wrong.
Yes,
but I wouldn't play through it twice. I didn't like it that much where I would play through it twice.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't either, and I liked it more than you. So that should tell you everything you need.
So overall, great foundation. It reminds me a lot of 1888 or 1886, where like not that like I mean this game's better than that, but I'm just saying like the foundation is there, the world building is there, like a sequel can do a really good job building upon this foundation. Now I feel like I'm excited if they do continue with this world to see where it heads for sure. I really like
this is their debut game. Just want to point that out.
Yeah, so I do hope they continue with this world. I mean, obviously, Cyberpunk was a big RPG game, and you can fight and all that, and dialogue, and so I guess they don't want to copy that. But at the same time, this game does the unique thing with no one dying, putting people's consciences and bodies, and the rich and all that, like big, giant, crazy cults and sex parties and VIPs. Yeah,
very cool to note too that this studio is from Poland, and the Thaumaturgs, which you and I both played earlier, also from a company based in Poland. Not to mention CD Projekt Red, I believe, is also in Poland.
Yes.
So very cool to see a lot of like new studios or old studios in CD Projekt Red's situation from Poland, because that's just not a cultural experience we get. Now, obviously, in this game, you don't really get that. This feels very American. If you didn't know that this game was made by a studio from Poland, you wouldn't. I mean, you just wouldn't know.
Yeah, but it takes place in New York. It's very American.
But yeah, it takes place in New York, right? It's about as American as American can be. But yeah,
but I really like I love the whole like Fallout kind of aesthetic where it mixes like retro future, 1930s with like the future, like cyberpunk in the 1930s. And,
absolutely,
and it works really well. I want to see this genre continue on now with this like dark noir in a cyberpunk Blade Runner setting. Like I think that was great. But the Matrix like pollution, because the Matrix, the whole world is dark and robots took it over and and pods and things like that. I think it was cool.
Yeah, and you can learn kung fu. Don't forget about that. You can learn kung fu.
Right. So this game is all about the consciousness, and it throws in like those like subconscious, like you're in a beach kind of thing. I won't go into details about it, but it's
You can fight somebody in a shower too. Did you end up winning that mini game?
yes, because I got the achievement for. You got to get it. It was an
Nice.
achievement.
I got the achievement for that too on first try. I was so happy with myself. I just pressed. You know what was funny too? I watch a lot of pro wrestling, as Seb already knows, and some of our viewers already know. And so I was just like thinking about like how a pro wrestler would go to this, and I went for like the low uppercut, and that's how he won. And I was like, that just was, it was cute. It was like a little fun mini game. I don't know why it was there, but it like livened up the story for me. So I like that.
The world building is cool.
Yes.
I think that's the best part of the game. Overall.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely want there to be a sequel or some kind of continuation in this universe. I'm worried that they're not going to do it.
No, probably
because it does feel very self-contained.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love for there at least to be some DLC or a sequel. But I mean, yeah, this is a studio to watch out for me. I love this kind of game, and I hope that they do something extra special with it. It's a bummer they didn't hand out review codes because nobody reviewed this game before it came out. I actually had to like rely on like Steam reviews and people who had only put a few hours in. But once I saw that it was mostly positive and saw that like what people were saying about it, which I had already gathered from the trailers anyway, I was like, cool, this is definitely for me. It's also a great price. You can get it 10% off on PS Plus, I'm pretty sure. And I think the discount for Steam is still on. I think Seb got it for 18 online, and I got it for like 26 on PlayStation. Ran beautifully on my PlayStation. No crashes, no hiccups, no bugs, no glitches, no nothing. Ran like a dream. And yeah, I really can't recommend this game enough. If you like narrative games, if you like neo-noir, if you enjoyed the Arkham series, when they were doing that, I know we talked about this earlier, Seb, but when you're doing the detective mode, if you're like me, a fucking nerd, you thought, wow, this would make a really cool game.
Yeah.
Well, Critical Hit Games has the fucking game for you because this is that whole thing.
Yeah, it's Batman and Cyberpunk combined. Like Cyberpunk does the same thing with the rewind, fast forward, trying to spotlighting certain things in the floor or the ceiling. If you like that kind of, if you like that kind of gameplay, is for you. I recommend this game just for the visuals alone and the story alone. Most of the story. So it's really cool. So maybe wait for a sale if you're not into those kind of games, or just want to try it out. But overall, good game. It won't make my top 10, but it definitely is going to be one of the most underrated games of the year, I would think. I think a lot of people are going to overlook this game, unfortunately. And I don't recommend people do. I think people should check it out. All right, so that's our that is our last topic of the night. Nobody wants to die. That's our show. Next week, we're going to talk about Dungeons of Hinterberg. And we'll figure out what else we're gonna talk about. There was like no news this week, really. There was there was like Xbox stuff with the FTC and all that, but I feel like we talked about Xbox enough, and it would just been a rewind of things we already talked about. So the news was dry this week. So I just wanted to do game impressions only this week, and I think it flowed very well. All right, you have a good night, Dory. Thanks for joining me. And I'm
off to go watch some wrestling, and hopefully my dog doesn't bark to end the thing. I've been trying to keep him quiet.
No worries.
But yeah, this was great. Loved all the games we played. Next week, like Seb said, we'll talk about Dungeons of Hinterberg and whatever wild news does or doesn't happen, plus what we've been playing.
Yep. You have a good night. Peace.
Bye.